This note-taking guide today is on volume, so let's see what you guys can remember about volumes. Does anybody remember how to find the volume of a rectangular prism? Which is what this is. You guys probably think it's like a box. You could call it that. It's a rectangular prism, though. How do you find the volume of it? Yeah, length, width, and height, right? Base, sometimes you use those words instead. But length times width times height. Because really what you're doing is finding the area of the base and then timesing it by the height. So on this one, you're going to do 6 times 4 times 5 and get that answer for your solution. So what do you get?
6 times 4 times 5.
Yep.
You get a number that is equal to 6 times 4 times 5.
100 and how much?
120. You lied.
I think I got 120. Okay. And then we're going to label it centimeters cubed because we're doing a volume, and a volume is a 3-dimensional measurement. Okay. Questions on that problem? All right. Does anybody remember the formula for a rectangular prism? Okay, that's pretty close.
1/4.
Nope, not 1/4 either. Not 1/2, not 1/4. It's actually 1/3. So the volume is 1/3, and then we use this big B and a little h. That big B right there stands for the area of the base. So in this case, because the base is a square, it would be 12 times 12 for the big B, and then times the height, which is 12. Okay, so you're going to do 1/3 the area of the base. The base is a square, so it's 12 times 12, and then times the height, which is 12. That's kind of a funny problem because there's a lot of 12s going on there, right? But you're doing 1/3 of those numbers times together. So what do you get when you do that?
I think you're wrong. I got 576.
576. Okay, so the volume is 576. There's no measurements on here, so we're going to go units cubed. Okay. All right, how about a cone? Anybody remember the formula for a cone?
1/3. You find the base of the...
Yeah, it's still really the same as that one we just did. The volume of a cone is 1/3 the area of the base, but the base is a triangle, a circle, so pi r squared. Wouldn't that be the area of the base? Pi r squared? And then times it by the height still. So a cone's formula is 1/3 of a circle times the height. The height always has to form a right angle with the radius when you're doing the height. They didn't give me the height of this, did they? So how can I find the height of this cone with the information that they gave me?
I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that it's like 13.
Okay, why would you say it's safe to say that it's 13?
I'm just eyeballing it right now.
Oh, just eyeballing it?
Yeah.
That's always a good mathematical way to find something.
Not really, but it's a pretty good guess.
So didn't she say that forms a right triangle? Don't we know some way to find that other side?
Oh, what? The math that we already know, we have to use it again? Are you kidding me? We're going to do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So 5 squared plus b squared equals 15 squared. Because 15 has to be the hypotenuse. So you have 25 plus b squared equals 225. Subtract the 25 over. So you get b squared equals 200. Square root, and let's round to like 2 decimal places, should we? 14.14.
Wow, I was way off. You're like wanting to eyeball things today. Why don't you use that calculation device you have there?
All right, so the height is 14.14. So now I can go and I can do my volume formula. It's 1/3 pi r squared, the radius is 5, times the height, which we found to be 14.14. So now we're just going to plug that into our calculator, and it's going to give us that value for the volume. So big, long calculator problem. Say it louder.
70.18.
Thank you. And it would be units cubed because it's volume. Questions on how we did that? Everybody understands why we had to find the height there, right? Because the height has to go from the top point straight down to the bottom. So the height is 14.14. Okay, same formula still on this. It's still volume equals the area of the base times the height. But what's the base on this triangular prism? It's a triangle, right? So does anybody remember how to find the area of a triangle? It's actually 1/2 the base times the height for the triangle. So if I'm going to do the volume of this, I would do 1/2 the base times the height again of the entire prism. Because it's the area of the base times the height. So I'm going to go 1/2 of 6 times 4 times the height of the whole prism, which is 12. And I'm just going to plug that in my calculator. That will give me the volume of the entire prism. Yep, 144. And these are labeled with centimeters, so we're going to do centimeters cubed. Okay. So you guys, again, really on these formulas, you have to think about what the area of the base would be and then times it by the height. You're always looking for that area of the base. And then some of the formulas change a little bit because if you notice, this is not a full prism, which is why we have to do 1/3 of it. This would be compared to a cylinder. It's not the full cylinder, which is why we do the 1/3 of it. Okay. So this one again, area of the base times the height because it is a rectangular or a triangular prism. So if we do volume equals the area of the base times the height, again on this one the base is a triangle. So we're 1/2 base times height and then times the height of the whole thing again. So the base of the triangle is 5. The height of the triangle is how much? Anybody know? It's 2. Good. So you're going to go 1/2 of 5 times 2 times the height of the whole thing, which is 8. Plug that in your calculator. That's going to give you the volume for that triangular prism. 40. And my label, centimeters cubed. Okay. The next one is just a prism, a rectangular prism. When we find rectangular prisms, again, it's length times width times height. But I want to point out to you that it's really just the area of the base times the height, right? The length times the width times the height, which is the area of the base times the height. So we're going to do 2 times 2 times 5 for the volume. And when you do that, you get 20 centimeters cubed. How many of you guys have these formulas memorized? Any of you?
Sort of, kind of. Maybe.
Sort of, kind of. Because this you've been doing since like 7th grade, so hopefully you're getting them memorized. All right, those of you that were in class yesterday, we totally figured out the volume formula for the cylinder, measuring the pennies and quarters yesterday. Anybody remember what the formula is for the volume of a cylinder? Yep, pi r squared times h, the height, yep. So what's our radius on this cylinder?
5.5.
Yeah, I think we're going 5.5 here because it's confusing whether or not that whole thing's 11 or just the side is 11. But I think that we're going to use that 11 to represent the whole distance. So we're going to go 5.5. And then the height of the cylinder is 16. So calculator problem from there. Thank you. 1,520.53. And centimeters cubed because we're in centimeters. Okay. Who remembers the formula for a sphere?
Oh,
Nobody?
Isn't it like
This one's funky.
4/3?
4/3 pi r
cubed.
cubed.
I know.
So you're just going to plug the r in. The r is 2. So your 4/3 pi times 2 cubed. Punch it in your calculator. It will tell you the volume of the cube. Yep, 33.5. Inches cubed because we're doing volumes. Okay. We got a couple more problems on the back to do. Questions so far? Really, it's just about knowing your formulas. So tell me this. If my volume formula for my sphere was 4/3 pi r cubed, what's it going to be for a hemisphere?
1/2 pi r cubed.
1/2 all of that, right? So can I just do 4/3 divided by 2 and it would tell me what my new formula would be? Do you guys agree with me on that?
No, yeah, no, yes.
So for the hemisphere,
2/3 pi r cubed.
yeah, it's 2/3 pi r cubed. Or you could have done this whole thing and divided it by 2, like found that number and divided your answer by 2. But really you can use this formula for a hemisphere because we can just take that number and divide it by 2. So you're going to go 2/3 pi times 6 cubed. So what's your volume of your hemisphere? What did you say, 452? Is that what you said? 0.39 if we're rounding. Centimeters cubed. Okay. Questions on how we did that? All right, someone explain to me how we're going to find the volume of this next one then.
Probably should start with find the hemisphere first.
Yeah, find the hemisphere first and then find the cylinder. I'm going to give you a head start on that. See if you can get going on it for me. So the volume of the hemisphere is 2/3 pi r cubed, so I substituted my radius in there. I'm going to add to that the volume of the cylinder, and it's pi r squared h. So then you just have one big old math problem that you can punch into your calculator to find the volume of those pieces added together.
It's a lot.
It's going to be pretty big, because those numbers, 10 is pretty big for a
It's 5,235.9.
5235.9.
Yeah.
Did somebody else get that so we know we're right? I check everybody's answer.
Oh, shut up, James. It's a joke. God, you freaking jerk.
You just
God.
admitted. You admitted it. You were.
You're stupid for calling me stupid.
Not really.
Okay,
I'm
guys.
actually smart.
Anybody else get that?
I have an IQ of 3, don't judge.
Okay, did anybody get something different? I did too. What did you get?
I got 7,000.
120. Okay, that's the same thing that I got.
What? No.
7,120.94 is what I got. So 2 of us have gotten that. Anybody else get that one? Okay. So you guys, when I ask you if you got that, you could really speak up and say, I think that might be wrong. That'd be okay.
Might be wrong.
Yeah.